To the end of KTN News Center this morning. Thank you so much for watching, and to the entire team that has made News Center a success, my colleagues on the ground, including my editor Linda Ogutu, for the good work that you do on a daily basis. But then I'd like to leave you that interview that my colleague Brenda Kirubo wants to have in a parliament with the Honorable Sakwa Bunyasi on this budget for today, that will be read by CS for Treasury Ukuri Atani. Brenda Kirubo, once again, good morning. Over to you.
Good morning, Brenda. And just to build up on exactly what you were saying in relation to the debts, according to the projections that we have, debt at the moment as of April stands at 7.3 trillion shillings. And like you were saying earlier with your guest, there are limited options when it comes to the Kenya Revenue Authority to collect revenues on the ground. So what do we do in relation to that? We have to look for debt. We might have paused in relation to repayments, but we still have to pay them. But we do have someone who's way familiar when it comes to debt management in the country, and he shares some insights in relation to this. Thank you so much for joining us, Mheshimiwa Sakwa. You have a bill proposed in Parliament in relation to this. Talk to us a little bit about this and tell us what exactly are you planning on achieving in relation to this?
Okay, I have a bill called the Public Debt Management Authority Bill 2020. The intention of the bill is to enforce some greater scrutiny of projects before they enter into the budget process, to seek to, as we increase our budget, to make sure that we have revenues to match, to hold the budget deficit within a certain range that is agreeable. For purposes of borrowing, there will always be some borrowing and in our level of development, to ensure that the loans match the kind of projects. The loans are acquired for specific projects whose terms match the length of benefits of the proposed project. You have, for example, a highway project that you get a long-term loan that maybe runs 15, 20 years or longer. If it's a dam, maybe even longer, rather than having big ticket items like projects whose benefits take a while to come, being repaid in a relatively short space of time. It's that kind of mismatch between loan terms and project period and loan terms that has led us into a bulge of repayment, where now the repayment of loans is taking almost 2/3 of the revenue that we collect. There are also other details that we get a clear record of loans. You have said that our debt now is at 7.3 trillion. Others think it's 8.4 trillion. People give different numbers, including those who should know, depending on the purpose. So we need to get a registrar that would be able to keep an accurate record of all of our obligations, debts, guarantees, and so on. The agency would also do the assessments of borrowing capacity for counties, for example. Say a county wants to borrow, to do an assessment of what it is they're looking for, what it is they want to invest in, and whether it's a viable option or not. It would report to Parliament annually on the status of debt, on the status of the projects that have been agreed, on advice on projects that have been negotiated, whether they conform to the guidelines that have been agreed or not. Simply put, it would streamline our borrowing and our management of debt. And lastly, it would have expertise to comment whether the level of borrowing is consistent with the strength of our economy, with the projections of our economy, without changing projections to suit the borrowing. The borrowing should suit the circumstances of the economy so that it does not destabilize the macroeconomic framework. That's a bit technical, but just to say that if the debt is very high, like it is now, then out of every 100 shillings we collect on revenue, between 62 and 65 cents shillings are going to paying debt. So you'll remain with a small balance of 30-something shillings that is available for development, for salaries, and for everything else. There are very many other things that are not included in there. So I think we are reaching a point where the payment of debt is dominating the collection of revenue that we have. So we want to streamline these procedures, keep an accurate record of it, advise Treasury and Parliament on matching our loan terms accurately with the projects that we put in the pipeline, so that we can improve the stability of our economy.
And Mheshimiwa, even as we finish, just tell us briefly, who are the key stakeholders that will be in charge of this once it becomes, you know,
Once the bill, if the bill is approved, we propose to have a management authority that be a board, a director general assisted by a board of directors that would be appointed largely by the Treasury or by competitive selection. That's being discussed. There will be some ex-officio office holders who will be on that board at the PS level, and others would be people that would be recruited competitively. It will have a number of technically qualified people to do the analytics and so on. It would be autonomous from the Treasury. The risk of having this kind of thing inside the Treasury is that the Treasury can have any size of budget, and then they can simply go out there and borrow and fill it. So, thank you. Borrow and fill it. So what we're looking for is a situation in which you get independent technical advice that the Treasury can take into consideration, or should take into consideration, as they seek to put their budget together and go out and seek loans. And for the Treasury to stick within the parameters agreed of which kind of loans will be borrowed for which kind of budget deficit that they're looking for.
Thank you so much, Mheshimiwa Sakwa, MP for Nambale, of course, giving us great insights when it comes to debt management. I mean, these are some of the key topics that will be discussed here by members of parliament, even as we wait for CS Ukuriatani to give his budget speech at 3 p.m. Quite some great insights. Of course, we are looking out for what exactly he will say in relation to taxes, what he will say in relation to boosting the economy that has been severely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. All right, and we will also be looking at key areas of sectors that will be looking to jumpstart, of course, following the effects of the COVID-19, and also the taxes. Which taxes will affect Wanjiko? Which taxes will affect the businesses? So for that, please stay tuned to KTN News. You're watching Budget 2021-2022.